Hey all, welcome to Friday, 19th of July. This is the Megaport Tech Drop-In session. I'm Jason Bordajenko, JB, and we're coming to you again from the Brisbane office, head office for us here at Megaport.
Hey JB,
We're trying
sorry,
something
it's
different today, and I think the last time we've been sitting in this room was with Dave Phelan from APNIC. But I would want to give you a little bit of a highlight if you didn't catch that session with Dave, or you wanted to review any of the previous drop-in sessions that we've been doing. I don't think we've pushed the message out too wide, but that's why we're doing it today. They're now available on YouTube. So we have a replay archive of, I think there's about 30 or so of these drop-ins, not all from the APAC team. We have our teams in North America and Europe as well that are producing them. So they're all available. They're playlisted. You can do I won't do the like and subscribe, but you can certainly subscribe. Please like if you do, and make them available. And you can obviously then go back and search some of the topics. So if you missed the RPKI session, for example, that we did with Dave in this studio, you can absolutely go there and have a look. As I mentioned, we like to try different things, change up the format every now and again. And I'm joined today by one of the solution architecture team, Mark Austin, who's usually based in Sydney. He's joining us in Brisbane at the moment. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, g'day, JB. Thanks for having me here.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm a solution architect based in Sydney. I work with the Australian, New Zealand customers and partners to build Megaport solutions. So yeah, just visiting today to be part of this in-person drop-in. So we, as JB mentioned, we have a few different formats. One of those is the webinar. So that's a longer format presentation, maybe for customers or prospective customers who don't know about Megaport and want to sit through maybe a 45-minute to an hour, start from the basics of Megaport, working through some solutions. So, as a solution architecture team, we share those, and we have our colleagues in Japan and Singapore. Serena has done one recently. So, we do those maybe once a quarter,
Yep.
I would say. But the tech drop-ins, are more frequent. They are really for maybe customers who are familiar with Megaport and want to see what the latest features are, or want to grab bits and pieces of, technical solutions.
Yeah, it's not the webinars aren't like this, but for an hour they're a bit more of a back end, research, get the slides ready. This is a bit more informal. So yeah, it's good to try the different formats.
Yeah. So did you want to cover a bit on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, if you want to
I can share that.
YouTube onto the screen, that'd be cool. So yeah, the YouTube channel, we've built that around actually the solution architecture team. So it's not the Megaport mainline YouTube. I think a few people have said, oh, are they going to pop up on the Megaport channel? And the answer is yeah, there'll be some of them, but we're building out the full repository and covering all of them. So depending on the audience, you'll be able to hit the subscribe button and get updated when these become available in the different regions. So Mark's got that live now. Thanks for that. You can see the playlists underneath. So this one, for example, will obviously drop into the Asia Pacific version. And yeah, you should be able to see the different formats. There's a couple now. Kimimoto has done one in Japanese. We've got Herman done one in Spanish. And given the magic of YouTube, you can just throw those captions on live. So even the internationally flavored ones, you'll still be able to get some great benefit from, and obviously extends the audience a bit. So I think we have an alternative career in doing podcasts, hopefully, but there's some great content building in there, and just recommend to have a look. So we've only got the 30 minutes today, though, so let's keep moving along and be snappy. I think we're going to cover a few topics today. There's been a lot of action with MVE and some updates I think you want to cover on that, Mark.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, MVE means or stands for Megaport Virtual Edge. So that is Megaport's virtual network function virtualization platform. It's a lot of words.
Yeah.
Basically, you can host virtual network appliances on our platform globally. We have 100 locations globally close to cloud on-ramps. So, you can do multi-cloud networking. You can do branch to branch to cloud using our platform with SD-WAN vendors that we support. And we're always adding new vendors, and we have a couple which we're going to talk about today. So I will show you just what sort of the list looks like in our portal. So the ones we're going to sort of cover a little bit today are the Cisco Fire Threat Defense Virtual Firewall, which is Cisco Firewall, and we're going to talk about Aviatrix Secure Edge. But as you can see here, we do have quite a few different firewall vendors,
including a couple people won't see on their own accounts. There's engineering internally, Vals, but that's always cool to see what we're working on behind the scenes. That's what you get for joining a drop-in.
Yeah, so we've got a good list of supported vendors on our platform, which you can deploy globally. So I'll just let you talk a little bit about the Cisco firewall.
Yeah, happy to. It actually nicely rounds out having or we call it internally FTDv. I like to make sure I'm using the right terminology. Just saying Cisco Firewall is right. I think the current name is Threat Defense Virtual. It was known as FTDv, so Firepower Threat Defense Virtual, or it is really Cisco's next generation firewall. But if we look at that list of MVE vendors, we're currently assessing probably 3 key criteria that we're seeing them fall into. And it's, again, not exhaustive. It's not going to be the only 3 criteria, but it probably explains where we sit with network function virtualization, or you hear about NFV. It's not a subset of what we do with software-defined network or SDN, but it is very much a component that aligns with it. So the 3 are having an SD-WAN edge. That's really where we launched the MVE platform with the Catalyst 8000V that you see in there. Catalyst 8000V also in the last couple of years got access to what we call the autonomous mode. So it can act, instead of just being a Viptela or Cisco SD-WAN aligned edge, it can be just a normal inline router, so an extension from what we offer with MCR. And the third one is obviously in the security gateway space. And some of these images actually perform different actions depending on what license options you turn on. So really, I think by having the Cat 8KV there, and obviously the option to choose those 2 modes, and now the Cisco FTDv, that really rounds out those 3 for the Cisco offering. And you can see we're adding that with other vendors as well. There's an interesting one, though, I think that you want to talk about that doesn't neatly fall into one of those categories, but crosses a few.
Yeah, so I'm going to cover a little bit on Aviatrix today, and that may be something quite new for everyone that they may not have heard of before. But basically, Aviatrix is at a very high level, is a multi-cloud orchestration system, a secure. It provides security, it provides management, it provides visibility to multi-cloud environment. And they have been around for quite a while, so they've been around for around 10 years, and it's all based on SDN principles, so it's very zero touch, and you drive it through a single pane of glass. So sort of part of their product is the key part of it is the controller, and that's a VM that you can deploy in a cloud region of your choice, in a cloud of your choice. And they've got HA options, but it's very, very easy to deploy. Once that's deployed, you can then build out a virtual topology using their gateways. So that is completely automated. The gateways will then build a secure topology using their proprietary security protocols, or proprietary security tunnels, I should say. So once you build out that topology, you've got a uniform way to manage the multi-cloud environment. So you don't have to know how to configure a network security group in AWS and Google. You could do that through the single pane of glass through Aviatrix. So it makes it very easy to manage and control multi-cloud environments. So where Megaport fits into this solution is you can extend that secure overlay to the edge.
Right.
Right, you extend it to the Megaport virtual edge environment, right? So you deploy an Aviatrix edge on our platform, and then you can have private multi-cloud connectivity across the Megaport private backbone. So you're getting the benefit of the secure overlay that Aviatrix builds, so the high performance overlay. So they
taking VPN capabilities above a gig.
Yep. And you get the benefit of our private, secure, high bandwidth connectivity between the clouds. So, together with that, it's, their platform's managing, the encryption or the tunnels. So that's, as you know, trying to build connectivity between cloud providers, in addition to building the VPNs, is quite complex, and there's a lot of process, and there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but there's a high operational overhead. So this reduces all of that down to a very simple.
Because it's relatively straightforward to get like a stretched LAN going and get traffic, but as soon as you have to do tunneling and encapsulation, I guess that's one of the challenges that we get asked about. Firstly, it's usually different cloud environments, different ways to manage the same thing. And even if someone is familiar, it's when they're trying to get them talking. Firstly, being security, everything falls to the lowest common denominator. So that's already taken you back a step. And then, if you're not natively comfortable with something, you're not in that panel every day, it can get a little confusing. So what we've seen with the collaborative solution, it makes it a bit more streamlined end to end.
Yeah, and each of the cloud providers, they have their own limits and ways of doing things. Right. And this just takes that out of the picture and makes it very uniform. And, in terms of having that security compliance, you are secure versus did I miss something in that configuration step? So with Megaport in the picture, you can have that additional layer of security, that additional private connectivity. So it can be as simple as looking at this diagram we've got up here. It can just be one cloud. It can be AWS, and you want to have that end-to-end encryption all the way from the edge into the cloud, into the VPC, or it can be a really complex multi-cloud, multi-region deployment, and you want that simple multi-cloud connectivity.
Excellent. Look, I know there's a couple that have joined on Zoom and obviously the LinkedIn stream as well. So we're happy to take some questions, and I'll say at the end, but really through the presentation as well. These are a bit more, informal. We've got a couple of questions that are ready to go, but if you do have questions and you're on Zoom, drop them into the Q&A. If you're on LinkedIn, throw them in the comments there and we'll get to them. I had a couple of things that I wanted to capture, and I think you want to get to a Terraform demo, so we'll probably move on from the Aviatrix bit.
I think, that Aviatrix leads into Terraform. One thing with Aviatrix is, you can use Terraform to deploy the Aviatrix components through their controller. And you can deploy the Megaport components using Terraform. So the whole environment end-to-end, you can automate.
So we've got customers doing that with their CSPs today and adding Megaport. So adding Aviatrix is as simple as throwing in another provider, isn't it?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So so that leads on to our provider. So Megaport. What's Megaport do with Terraform? So we've supported, as you know, Terraform for quite a while. But we had limited support. We had some very specific use cases that we supported. So mainly around the Megaport Cloud Router and cloud connectivity, and basic data center connectivity to cloud. So what we've done with what Megaport's done is rewritten the Megaport provider from scratch to cover as much as we can from a Megaport perspective that you could do in the portal.
Cool.
Okay, so you can see here, if you do Google Megaport Terraform, you will end up probably on this page, and this is a Terraform registry page under Megaport. You will see the releases here.
We've got a new one this morning, isn't it? That you got there, 1.10 beta.
Yep. Yeah. So we
fresh.
we
17 minutes ago.
So yeah, we're actively working on
Yeah.
it. So you can see there we jumped from version 0.41, which was the older provider, to 1.0.0,
Yeah.
and so that's a completely rewritten. We're sort of re we it is a little bit different the way you write Terraform, but that's to be as streamlined as
And
possible.
an end user that, or a customer that has, working on a pre 1.0 release can continue to use that. It's not
Yes,
going away. It doesn't
that's
break
right.
anything.
Yep.
But if they want to access any of the new features, if they've got an issue, what's the method that they can get into that obviously very aggressive release trace?
Yeah, so that's it. Like obviously you can keep using the older version, but
Yeah.
we are adding a lot of
Yeah.
features and support into the newer one. So it's a reasonably easy transition
Yeah.
across. Um, and to help guide you with the new provider, there are some examples on this page
Okay.
under resources, and you can see here we've got MCR. We cover Megaport Cloud Router, Megaport Virtual Edge, Port, and VXC. And VXC, which is Virtual Cross Connect, can cover a lot of things. Just a
Yeah.
private, between Megaport products or maybe to cloud.
It's really the glue, isn't it, that
Yep.
stitches it together?
So, if you click on one of those, you can see here we have some examples
Oh,
of
yeah.
how to write a Terraform code to deploy, say, a
Mm.
Megaport Virtual Edge. Or you can just go to the Megaport GitHub
Ah, nice.
page where we have a lot more examples. So if I just look under examples there, you can see here we've got quite a few more. So if I click on maybe MCR with VXCs, and I can see here we walk through quite a lot more. So this is
Mm.
an MCR with an AWS VXC. So again, we've got a lot of guidance there. What I'm going to show is like how easy it is to use Terraform.
Right.
So
Yeah, we had a lot of people that
yeah,
are, comfortable with it because they've been building cloud, but then we say, have you considered Terraform? So we've heard of it, but we haven't really got started with it. I have had some questions, and one that just as we started today was, how do I ensure that I can, build these resources using that and obviously not cause myself a very large bill?
yep,
So I don't know if you're covering that in the examples. I can see the staging environment there. If you could
yep.
add some of that in, that'd be great for those that have got questions. As I said, if you've got more questions, throw them in the Zoom or the LinkedIn chat, and I think you can head off
Yeah,
to a demo time.
so um, if there's a few different ways probably we should cover
Cool.
with Megaport in how you deploy resources with Megaport. One of them is the portal.
Yeah.
So that's the UI, which you can get access to
Yeah.
everything, and you can
It's a good starting point.
you can click through and
Yeah.
deploy, and that's probably the most common way
Yeah.
customers deploy with us.
What was it?
Currently.
WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
before GUI.
You know, and the second way is our API.
Right.
I would say that because that the API covers everything.
Yep.
But the API, it's a lot of work.
Mm.
So you have to write scripts.
Yep.
You have to understand a little bit about coding. Not a great deal, but
Yeah.
there's if you want to automate it, you need to
Mm.
write it in, say, Python or
Yeah. And you have to know the steps along the way, don't you? I mean, Terraform, I think the benefit is it's declarative. So you say,
yeah.
I want this thing to end up looking like that, and it figures out the middle steps to actually get you there.
So
versus API, you've got to know all those middle steps or have done it in the portal.
It really abstracts out all the complexity. And that's the last or the third option is Terraform, right? So if we take a look at I've just got some example code here to deploy a Megaport Cloud Router in Singapore. So it's really simple, and just walking through this, you can see here there's a data block, and that's the Megaport location. Okay, and all you have to do is specify one of the locations we have the Megaport Cloud Router available, and one of those in Singapore is Equinix SG1, right? And you can grab that information from the portal. You can
Yeah.
grab it from our locations page. And you just type the description of the
And it's plain
guards
English.
in
It's
there.
not saying, you know, identity number 12345. It's just the name of the DC, which is nice.
And the second block there is the resource block for the MCR. So all you got to put in there is the name. I got demo MCR, and that'll appear, you know, as the description in the portal. When you look at it, you've got the location ID, which links back to the data block above it, which is Equinix SG1. Contract term equals 1. That is basically no term for the MCR. So if I deploy it for 1 hour, delete it, only pay for an hour.
Right.
And then you got the speed of the MCR, and I've got there 1,000 megabits per second, which is 1 gig. You know, and we have 4 tiers with the MCR. So you could put 2.5 gig, you could put 5 gig or 10 gig.
Right. Okay. So you just declare it in megs
per
second.
Yeah. So that's all you need to deploy an MCR. So it's really easy. It's pretty straightforward text. In terms of the other thing you need to configure the provider page or provider code. And within here, you're just saying, I want to use the Megaport provider. I've got the latest version in here, 1.10 beta. If you take out the version line of code, it'll just grab the latest,
right?
But it won't grab the beta.
It won't grab any like release candidates or something like that. Yeah.
It'll just grab the mainline releases. So I usually just have that blank, unless I know there's a specific beta I want to use. And then down here, you just specify the API key, API secret, which you create in our portal. Right. So that's the first step. You need to, in the portal, create the API key, which is very simple to do. You just bring that code to this page. Now, it would just be a string here. I've hidden it because it's
you don't obviously keys to the castle.
Obviously,
you've done this
private information. And then, you know, you've just got some basics here, accept purchase terms. And the environment I've got here is production in this case. But what I wanted to get to is for customers, or not even if you're not a customer of Megaport, you can still use what's called our staging environment. And that is a simulated environment you can deploy Terraform against to test your code, or you can script the API to test the API. And you can build out, you know, topologies. They're not real. They're not deploying real VMs in the background or real connectivity in a network. It's simulated. But, you know, it lets you test your code.
Okay.
So that would be the case.
So you'd still say accept purchase terms are true, but you just change it from production to staging. And it would do all the same things.
And you would create the API key in the staging portal. Right. So the keys are different between the environments. Gotcha. Okay. So if I want to go ahead and deploy this,
let's do it. Let's make it work.
Yeah. So
have you said the prayer to the demo gods?
Yep. So there's a couple of steps. Obviously, you've got to install Terraform. Right. Like, you know, that will depend if you've got a Mac or a Windows PC, right? So we're not going to show you how to do that. That's
binary blob, pretty much. Yep.
Yeah. And once you've done that, you can then, you know, kick your code off, right? So one of those steps is, you know, I need to pull down the Megaport provider. Yeah. Okay. And you only have to do this once.
Oh, so you're doing this in the directory that had those 3 files?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So you've got to be in the directory of those 3 files, like you said.
I'm guessing green text is good and red text is bad.
So now we've pulled down the 1.10 beta provider. Yeah. And then you're ready to go. So all we want to do here, what we can do is what's called a Terraform plan. Right. And that'll go through and work out, you know, if you're doing a few different, like you can be deploying Azure like code or AWS code with Megaport. And what will happen here, it'll work out like dependencies and which one goes first and which goes second, right? In our case, this is just an MCR, so it's very simple.
It's one resource on us.
But basically saying, you've written the code properly, it's all good to deploy.
So you had an Equinix SG1 and it's got location ID equals 36. So it's already done like the lookup to figure out what that code
exactly. Is. So there's obviously a lot of code underneath in Terraform, which is all abstracted out, which makes it nice to use.
Okay.
Which, if you were doing the API, you would have to write
Yeah.
a lot of stuff to do what
To know that.
to do what we're doing. So the next step is you just want to go ahead and deploy. All right. So we don't do a plan again. We do a Terraform apply. Okay. And now it's just saying, do you want to go ahead?
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you really sure?
Yep. And, you know, if you're doing this in staging, it's exactly the same.
Right.
So you'll get exactly the same response. And what Terraform is doing now is going off and using the Megaport API to deploy the MCR in Equinix, Equinix SG1 in Singapore.
Yep.
So we jump over to the portal and we just do a refresh. You will see, oh, look at that. So there we go, demo MCR in Equinix SG1. So the demo gods are on our side today. It is working.
That's not one you did earlier. That's actually live.
So it is live. This is production. It's not staging. So we are deploying, and you know it will deploy pretty quick. So you know we're looking at, you know, it's showing us here 40 seconds elapse. I reckon.
Oh, so it's actually waiting for it to come up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
And if you had, as part of your code, you had VXE, say to Azure or AWS, it would know to do the MCR first, and then it will go, next step is to do the VXEs.
Oh, and that's very nice.
So you can see there, it's done. So really simple, right?
So if you go back to the portal and hit reload, we should see that.
So that'll be
pretty much ready to move to the next step.
To go.
Connectivity.
All green, good to go.
Yeah, nice.
And, you know, the good thing about, you know, Megaport being a network service provider and having the ability to do this on demand, you can run it for, you know, a week, 2 months, 3 months, and you know you can change, you can you know, add remove VXCs, you can increase speed, decrease speed, but you know you can also remove it, right? So you can just come in here.
I love destroy.
Terraform destroy.
not just remove, it's like destroy everything. So that's the list from before. It said it will be applied after that. It now knows all of those variables.
And it's just going to go ahead and destroy it. And look at that, like a second it's gone. And we go to the Megaport portal again, and let's have a look, and it shouldn't be there anymore.
Hey Mark, I did have a question. I know we were trying to keep to the 30 minutes. One of the questions that came up was, what's that little new badge?
Oh, yeah. We did.
Tackle that one?
We did. We were going to talk about that one.
It's good that was pointed out. So I'll grab this one if you want.
Go ahead.
You've been doing the Terraform goodness. So this is something that's been widely requested, and it's making available in the portal the service notification. So that's both for planned maintenance, and I think that's what you're showing there, as well as any emergency outages. I mean, they're rare, but they do happen. Whilst I say they're rare, this is a demo environment, so a lot of these have just been put in to actually have something to talk about as well. I don't think this one was actually down because it's got identity as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But so we've been providing notifications. Generally, I think the current plan is, you know, somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks of maintenance, before maintenance, that you'll be notified. And that will relate to any cloud provider, port maintenance, or, you know, path maintenance. It won't be hazard conditions and those sorts of things. So we generally have the fault tolerant paths. But maintenance will be under, obviously, the maintenance badge, and that's more of a look ahead, but it might also be things that are currently in flight. It'll show retrospectively, like resolved issues, but also any ongoing or resolved emergency maintenance, which is not always, you know, us. Sometimes there's been a, you know, fiber path or report that's gone down due to a cross-connect fault.
This page will just show specific to my services.
So it's like, it's akin to what AWS have with the PhD or the personal health dashboard. You don't see network-wide because it's obviously so many nodes in the 800-odd data centers and all the connections, but this has been a widely requested feature. That's nice to have. I did have, and we've only got a minute or two, so we'll go very, very quickly. If you'd head back to the services page for me, when the MCR was created, that icon at the top left, we've had that for some time on MVEs, and that one's an MVE, but when you created that MCR, it was available. So Megaport Internet is now available against other service types, so access types. We have that can be attached to physical ports, as well as MCRs in a lot more geographical areas. I won't go through all of them.
Yep.
But one thing that hasn't made it in the portal, and I'll wrap it up on this, is we now have support for bring your own ranges.
Yeah.
So
let
if people
me
want to advertise
bring
their own
this,
route, yeah, cool.
bring a reference up for you.
Yeah, nice. I can talk very quickly through
Yeah.
it. So, yeah, if you do want to bring your own routes, it is a manual step. So get in contact with your solution architecture team or your sales team, and we'll be able to get this going. You'll get point-to-point link addresses for V4 and V6. We will be filtering some of the, don't want to be blocked for any spam. So the port 25 is filtered. But it goes through some of the options there. The main ones that I want to talk about are those route table options. So we have had some customers that say, bring me a full table, or I'd like to connect to your IX in that metro using the internet service. So you can see you've got options of, default route as we're currently doing, full table if you want to go that way, or just customers and peers within a specific metro. So that would be anyone else that's using that internet service and any VIX peers as well. I was going back at the start to the session we did with Dave on RPKI. So again, if you wanted to review that, a lot of those principles are there, but we're doing security best practice on top of that. And we can support private ASs as well.
Yep. And we also have the ability to provide some level of public addressing if the customer
definitely.
doesn't
We have
have
had
their
that.
own public address.
Yep, we have had that request, and bring it to us. Absolutely keen to get that out there. I haven't had any other questions online. I'm just looking on the screen for Q&A, but I think we've covered them as we've gone. Really appreciate you jumping in today, Mark. It's nice to get away from sitting in front of the monitor and just pressing go on a screen share and having a chat about it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to another session next week. And obviously, also internally, we just like catching up with what our colleagues in North America and EMEA are doing. So although you may be watching this either live or on the the recording on YouTube, it's actually great internally to have these sessions and understand where the team are up to. So thanks today for joining in, Mark,
Thank you.
and the Terraform demo. It's pretty cool.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome.